Hi, I'm astrologer Penny Dix, and welcome to another Astro Witter. And this one is to look at the fact that we have Uranus, our massive outer planet, our planet of the unexpected, of change, of electricity, of shocks, of the internet, goes back into the sign of Taurus today, November the 8th. But also, I'm going to talk about Mercury, our planet of communication, of ideas and of thought, that goes retrograde tomorrow on the 9th of November in the sign of Sagittarius. And Mercury will actually go all the way back into Scorpio before it goes direct again. But let's just deal with Uranus in Taurus first of all, because Uranus today goes into Taurus. It's been in Gemini. It's been dipping its toes in this sign of air, of mutability. It complements Uranus because Uranus is also an air planet. It rules Aquarius, which, even though it's a fixed sign and so therefore you could say fixed energy, actually Uranus's unpredictability enjoys the energy of Gemini. And so we've had a flavor of what to expect. But what can we expect from Uranus retrograding back into Taurus, which it does today? Because it's actually going to be here until April the 26th, 2026. And it only goes back as far as 27 degrees and 27 minutes of Taurus. And then it will go direct on 4th of February, 2026. There's a lot going on in February, but we'll save that for another time. So what do we know about Taurus, and how did Uranus affect you and affect us whilst it went through Taurus? Well, we saw some unpredictability in the world economy, and certainly big changes were around. Now, Uranus, we have to remember, is about surprise and shock, change, unpredictability. And Taurus, of course, is fixed Earth. Taurus wants to make sure everything is secure and safe. So Uranus in the sign of Taurus is quite uncomfortable, especially for anyone who has their sun or their moon in Taurus, or their ascendant, but mostly sun and moon. You will have really noticed it over the last 7 to 8 years. I have my sun in Taurus, and certainly I didn't envisage 7 years ago that I would be going through the changes that I have decided to implement as Uranus completes its journey across my natal sun and moved past into Gemini. Now, just for a kind of point of reference, my natal sun is at about 24 degrees of Taurus, and Uranus is going to go back to 27. So and for anyone else who has up to 24 or 25 or even 26 degrees of Taurus for their sun or their moon, we're not going to experience an exact conjunction again, which means the changes that are to be implemented are probably already in motion. Certainly in my own situation, yes, they are. And really, I think what we can expect with this little journey back into Taurus is an opportunity to tidy up loose ends, to really take the first steps towards the changes that have been suggested or manifested through the energy of Uranus in Taurus. Now, Taurus, remember, is about material possessions, money, luxury goods, food, agriculture. It's also about bricks and mortar and investments and that nature of things. Now, when Uranus was here before, we did see certainly some volatility in the financial world. And yes, I think we will see a little bit of volatility over the next few months and maybe a downturn, which actually I talked about in my full moon in Taurus video. So we may actually see a downturn, but I don't see this as something dramatic and terrible and a complete collapse of the Western world's economy and how we've known it. I don't see that at all. What I sense is there will be some what they call market readjustments as it finds a better level to be balanced at. And that is good. That is great. I also think that Uranus, for any planet, when it finally leaves a sign, I feel, and certainly was taught by some of my early teachers way back 30, 40 years ago, that when a planet finally leaves that sign, it leaves a gift behind. If you've done the work, if you've addressed the issues that Uranus has brought up for you, then it will leave you with almost like a congratulations. And so, assuming we've all done the work and assuming the planet has done the work, but has it? Has it really? Because I think what's interesting is that whilst Uranus is back in Taurus, it'll be conjunct the fixed star Algol, basically till next April. Now, Algol represents losing one's head, beheadings, literally. So it can literally be beheadings, but in today's day and age, and hopefully not so primitive times, we won't actually see that acted out. But we've already seen the energy of that with certain people losing their status, like Andrew, formerly known as Prince Andrew, who was Prince Andrew of the United Kingdom's royal family. And so I think that between now and next April, next spring, and certainly by next May, we may see more leaders losing their position or losing control. And so because Uranus can also be a planet that represents rebellion and freedom of speech, we may actually see more rebellious protests out on the streets over the next few months, which may bring about the falling from power, the falling from grace of certain leaders in certain parts of the world. We will have to see. But that, I feel, is roughly the energy we're going to experience whilst Uranus spends its last few months in Taurus. I also think it is going to leave Taurus with the gift of some innovative and new ways to manage agriculture, crops, and growing things, and to take us away from the I can't think what the word is, where they alter it, the genetically modified, that's the word I'm looking for, sorry. Genetically modified ways of growing things. I think that might get literally the axe. I think people will begin to realize that the results are not actually good. And that, for me, you see, it feels like we're taking nutrition out of what is natural and what grows naturally and what knows what to do. But that's just what I think. Anyway, so there we have it. That's Uranus today. And Uranus will be there until April the 26th. So let's move on now to what's going on with Mercury, because Mercury is going retrograde in Sagittarius on the 9th of November, and it will be retrograde until the 29th of November, when it will go direct, but in Scorpio. So let's have a think about this. Okay. It starts off going retrograde at 6 degrees and 51 minutes of Sagittarius. So first of all, we need to think about the energies of Sagittarius. What is Sagittarius's flavor? Well, travel, plans, visas, immigration, flight. Think of that Uranus just gone back into Taurus. Earth movements, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions disrupting aviation. Sagittarius can also be studying, exams and learning things, teaching, beliefs, philosophy. It can also be legal matters. And it can be that sense of cross-cultural dealings. So whilst Mercury goes back through these first degrees of Sagittarius, what can we expect? And I just want to get my book out to see when it goes into, back into Scorpio, because I can't remember and I didn't write it down. So it actually goes back into Scorpio on the 20th of November. Okay, and then it doesn't, as we know, go direct until the 29th of November, and it will finally go back into Sagittarius on the 12th of November, and it won't be out of what is known as its shadow phase until the 18th of December. So I think I said November earlier. It goes back into Sagittarius on the 12th of December, and then it won't be out of its shadow till the 18th of December. So how does this play out? Well, I do think we might see travel delays, we might see strikes, this might link in with the Uranus action of unexpected walkout, strikes, rebellious behaviour. Perhaps in America, people rebelling against the government shutdown, if that's still shut down. And I believe it's the longest shutdown in history. To be quite honest, I don't really understand the politics of America, and I don't propose to do or purport to do, but I realise that the shutdown is causing immense problems from what I'm understanding. So I think also with Mercury and Sagittarius going backwards, we get confusion. Remember, Sagittarius is mutable. So it's like, oh, was I meant to go that way or that way? And what am I supposed to do first? And here I am with my ticket and my boarding pass, but which gate did they say I was supposed to go to? All those kind of confusions that can come up. And so that we get caught in sort of the grey areas of life. And I think that, Sagittarius is so full of hope and optimism. It's ruled by Jupiter. And Mercury retrograde here is just saying, keep an eye on where you're going. Check the direction you're going. And if there are delays, see them as timely and necessary. Because, this first week, I think we're going to feel a little bit as if it's a bit stuck, a bit in a fog. Don't force things to a conclusion. Don't force decisions or force conversations. Allow people the time they need to reflect and think about things. Make sure if you do have to sign contracts that you do go back and read it a few times. And if you're not sure, ask the question. And, just make sure that everything is clear so that you don't have to go back and redo something. Now, around mid-November, we're going to get the Sun and Mercury conjunct. And at that point, I think it'll be a little bit like somebody switches the light on and we get an aha moment. And it could be a time when somebody who is maybe older and wiser than us comes up with a novel or an inventive idea of how we can proceed forward, so that suddenly we start to get some clarity into everything that is unfolding here. And I think it's important that you don't expect anything to be finished in November. Maybe you're not going to see the full results till mid-December and beyond. So just relax. So it is a good time, though, to renegotiate terms, to look at how you can restructure or rebuild timelines of what you want to do and how you want to do it, especially if you're planning big changes, whether it's through travel or whether it's moving home or moving offices or moving careers or changing your job. Look at how you can do that in a smooth way. And I think it's also wise at this time to get second opinions. Don't assume you know it all. Don't go rushing in where angels fear to tread. Make sure you don't overlook the obvious, and just make sure that you have some certainty by reconfirming with others. So that's the other thing. Make sure you reconfirm bookings, flights, theatre tickets, sea crossings, ferries, whatever it might be. Make sure your insurance is up to date. Check legal dates and data twice or 3 times. Go through manuscripts, double check them, re-edit them. Look at anything you're doing educationally and make sure you're dotting the I's and crossing the T's. And maybe it's a good time to actually reconnect with teachers of old or mentors and just have a catch up, tell them how you're getting on. And, actually teachers do like to know that pupils that have, or students that have moved on without them are doing okay, and that perhaps they served a good part in that person's development. You might want to take some time out to think about your spiritual pursuits and give yourself a little bit of a spiritual, retreat, a personal inner retreat and understanding. Reconnect with that. You might have been caught in a lot of doing. So maybe this Mercury retrograde is time for some being, for some just being still and breathing. Avoid launching anything as the final thing to do during the rest of November. And don't lock yourself into something you can't get out of. Don't sign complex legal papers without really going through it with a fine-tooth comb. And I think it's important that you don't, if you get caught into disputes, try not to back yourself into a corner where you start getting into distorted thinking and saying, I know I'm right because, well, I'm just right because I am right. Because you might find that you get a little bit wound up. Remember, Mars is in Sagittarius, and Mars and Mercury are going to be conjunct again. But I'll talk about that another time because we've had so much of this Mars-Mercury conjunction. But just remember that Mars is in Sagittarius. So it might fire you up a bit during this Mercury retrograde, and that you get impatient with people who aren't coming up with what you want quickly enough. Remember, Rome wasn't built in a day. It's absolutely fine if things take a little bit longer, because if they take a bit longer, it's because the divine is endeavoring to make sure it's absolutely right. So sometimes when all else fails, laugh. Find the humour in the situations that can come up with a retrograde, because it's, you know, it can be tricky. Let's see, let's just check my notes, see if there's anything else I want to. I don't think so. I think I've gone through. I've got a little quote here, and I've got some other quotes, but this is quite a good quote for Mercury retrograde. Clarity is kind. Brevity is love. Accuracy is respect. Measure twice. Speak once. Now, I thought it might be useful or interesting to look at the importance of the pause, pausing, thinking, reflection, because that is an energy that can be so helpful with a Mercury retrograde. So let's see what I came up with. Well, this is on the power of pause. Anne Lamott said, oh, we know this one, I love it. Almost everything will work again if you unplug it for a few minutes, including you. It's true. Dave Hollis said, in the rush to return to normal, use this time to consider which parts of normal are worth rushing back to. That's quite profound, isn't it? Which parts of normal are worth rushing back to? Okay, now Naya Rivera said, sometimes sitting and doing nothing is the most productive thing you can do. You know, I had a day like that yesterday. I just gave myself permission. I thought, I don't want to do anything. I just want to sit and be. It's almost like a 12-hour meditation. I just made sure I ate. I fed myself. I scrolled a bit, because we do. I actually just caught up on a few emails and just kind of gazed into space. I gave myself permission to do nothing. It was wonderful. So what about on reflection and self-knowledge? Now, Aristotle said, knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. And that is very true. John Dewey said, we do not learn from experience. We learn from reflecting on experience. And Peter F. Drucker said, follow effective action with quiet reflection. From the quiet reflection will come even more effective action. And my pause yesterday meant today I got on and completed and did a huge number of tasks that had been piling up. And I've just sailed through them and reached this point in the day, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, where I'm showered and dressed and made up and hair coiffed to do the video. And I'm thinking, oh, that was great. I got all those things done, all those drawers cleared out, all that, the drawers with stuff. Oh, I've got rid of so much stuff. I highly recommend it. Maybe that's a good thing to do now. Get rid of stuff. Now let's see what else we've got. We've got Imam al-Haddad said, reflection is the lamp of the heart. If it departs, the heart will have no light. It's true. Ram Dass said, the quieter you become, the more you can hear. Now, this next little selection of quotes is very good. This is about on slowing down before speaking or acting. Now, this really fits in with Mercury retrograde. Oh, good old Napoleon Bonaparte said, take time to deliberate. But when the time for action comes, stop thinking and go in. True. Viktor E. Frankl said, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. Jean de la Bruyere said, it is a great misfortune neither to have enough wit to speak well, nor enough judgment to be silent. Ouch. It's very good, that. Fran Lebowitz said, think before you speak, read before you think. True, true. And then we've got some which are on rest and inner stillness. John Lubbock said, rest is not idleness, and to lie sometimes on the grass, listening to the murmur of water or watching the clouds float is hardly a waste of time. Well, in a sense, that's what I did yesterday. There's an unknown one here, which is to rest is not to waste time. It is to restore the essence of who you are. And Bert McCoy said, sometimes you need to press pause to let everything catch up. And in a sense, that's what the cosmos does for us. It gives us a Mercury retrograde so we can pause and reflect. It gives us the other retrograde planets so that we can go back and make sure we've made the right decisions, so that we can change anything, restructure anything that needs rethinking about. Hermann Hesse said, within you there is a stillness and a sanctuary to which you can retreat at any time and be yourself. And finally, I've got some that are about, or from a spiritual and philosophical reflections. Psalm 46 verse 10 said, be still and know. Francis Bacon said, silence is the sleep that nourishes wisdom. Deepak Chopra said, the pause between your thoughts is your window to the infinite. Lao Tzu said, when you pause, you allow the next truth to surface. And finally, we've got one that you will know, but we'll have one that we know to finish on, is Caroline Miss, which is the soul always knows what to do to heal itself. The challenge is to silence the mind. Well, there's some profound sayings for today. And actually, they really do reflect these retrograde energies, including Uranus. So we don't, actually, we need sometimes permission to slow down. And that's really what Mercury retrograde is doing. It's giving us permission. Take November off, rest, reflect, restructure, relook at, and don't be late. Right, well, I will be back tomorrow night, Sunday the 9th, in spite of a Mercury retrograde, technology permitting, with my weekly live stream for the week ahead and the energy of the week ahead. And thank you so much for joining me for today's Astro Witter. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you're not getting notifications, click it off and click it on again, because I was listening to another YouTube presenter saying the same thing that people had been saying to him. They're not getting notifications of new videos. And I don't know what YouTube does, but it just sometimes kicks you out and, all manner of things go on. So that's my suggestion. In the meantime, have a great day. Have a lovely Saturday. And I really look forward to seeing you again very soon. Take care. Bye for now. Bye.